எதன் கண்ணே நிலையாகி இருந்திடும் இவ்வுலகமெல்லாம் எதனதெல்லாம் எதனின்று அனைத்துலகும் எழுமோ மற்றிவையாவும் எதன் பொருட்டாம் எதனால் இவ்வையமெல்லாம் எழுந்திடும் இவ்வெல்லாமும் எதுவே ஆகும் அதுதானே உளபொருளாம் சத்தியமாம் அச்சொருபம் அகத்தில் வைப்பான். சக்தியினால் தாமியங்கும் தன்மையுணராதகில சித்திகளாம் சேர்வமென சேஷ்டிக்கும் பித்தர்கூ தென்னை எழுப்பிவிடில் எம்மட்டித்தெவ்வரென சொன்ன முடவன் கதையின் சோடு. சக்தியினால் தாமியங்கும் தன்மையுணராதகில சித்திகளாம் சேர்வமென சேஷ்டிக்கும் பித்தர்கூ தென்னை எழுப்பிவிடின் எம்மட்டித்தெவ்வரென சொன்ன முடவன் கதையின் சோடு. Namo Ramana. By Bhagavan's immense grace, we have come up to verse number 15 in the Adhikara Prakaranam. That is, this segment is on the qualifications of the sadhaka. Who is eligible to be a sadhaka in this path? So, one of the main qualifications is mentioned in this verse, and it is mentioned in a different style from the other verses. Bhagavan makes certain severe remarks if we go along these lines. So, it's slightly different and somewhat humorous in the way the reference to those who are not eligible is made. Those who go along the lines that make one ineligible are referred to as Pittar. The verse, we can say in Sadhuvam Swamigal's translation, starts with this Pittar Kut, that it is like madmen talking when they say that we will go after acquiring all the siddhis, the great Ashtamaha siddhis and whatever other siddhis are there, and get great things done, get great amount of recognition in this world and appreciation in this world by showing extraordinary skills, extraordinary tasks, capabilities that are not in the normal realm. The Pittar Kut, the madman's talk, it appears, who say, without recognizing that they all come under the purvey of one power, that we all come under the purvey of one power, that the entire creation is created, maintained, and dissolved by that one power. Without recognizing that there is one power behind this whole huge, magnificent, well-ordered creation, without realizing that when somebody says, I am going to gain great powers and display these great powers, It is like madmen boasting, and it is akin to the story of a lame person claiming that when the enemy's armies are at the gates, the lame person inside the fort is claiming to his friends, if only somebody can help me get onto these crutches, I will myself go and destroy and annihilate all those hordes of enemies outside our fortress. It is as laughable as that, says Bhagavan. If a sadhaka says, instead of taking up the sadhana given by the Guru, if he says, I am going to get special powers, I am going to get these skills which I will display and thereby get great fame and great recognition, it is like madmen speaking, saying, akin to the story that a lame person claiming that if he is helped on to his crutches by someone, a few people around, he cannot even stand. And he says, if someone helps me, please bring me that crutch. Let me go and destroy those enemies. It's as quixotic as that, says Bhagavan, in a gentle, humorous way, but severe at the same time, that one should not aim and one should not be tempted by any kind of special powers that one may get on the way in sadhana. Now, that is the meaning of the verse. Sattinal tamiyangum tanmayuna radhagila. Without knowing or without recognizing the fact that there is one power which is helping us, helping the whole universe stay on course, get connected and run its course, behind all these numerous activities of great beings, small ones, there is one power. Akila Mahashakti is there. Without recognizing that, and all of us say, Kanakamal and Lakshman Sharma sir, that we are all marionettes. So far as we consider ourselves to be apart from that power, so far as we consider it ourselves to be apart from others, we are mere marionettes dancing to the string pulled by that one power. And without recognizing that, to claim that I will be a special marionette, I will get these special powers and display them and gain recognition and do great things, is like that lame person claiming that if only he is helped up onto his crutches, he will single-handedly go outside the fortress and completely destroy the enemy's hordes, the thousands of well-armed soldiers who are waiting there. Now, we go ahead to the contents of the verse, which are not very far from our day-to-day truth. This, it may feel that when are we going to seek these powers? It is not going to be my aim, and we may become lax, but in due course of investigation into this verse, we will find that it is very much in touch with our day-to-day living, and we could make this error of claiming extraordinary powers and thereby losing out because we are going against the truth that there is one power coordinating everything. The best example right away where this extraordinary powers versus the opposite of it is followed by two sadhakas in Bhagavan's life, we can find the example of Perumal Swami and Ramanatha Brahmachari. Perumal Swami was one that he did have great seva bhava, but somewhere along the line, along the sadhana, what happens in the siddhis, how the siddhis are attained, when we read on how the siddhis are attained, we find that the sattva guna of tapas is misused. The sattva guna of tapas is misused to seek these great powers, and in the very process, we get diverted into rajas and tamas. But that is how the great siddhis are got. So the presence of Bhagavan and the seva he has done must have definitely brought in the sattva guna in greater clarity, but one should persist relentlessly along the sattva guna. The tapas that comes on and brings on sattva guna should not be used to gain these powers. Unfortunately, in Perumal Swami's case, at some point in sadhana, in presence in Bhagavan, the inner desires to gain power over the ashram, power over Bhagavan, people visiting him, controlling that, gets the better of him, and he has to stay away from Bhagavan for some time. That is the least of the punishments that I am mentioning here. But when we quickly go across and see Ramanath Brahmachari, he did not seek anything except to serve, except to be Anubandham Anbarukku Anbana Idarul Arunachala. What should be the nature of the sadhaka, even when involved in seva? Bhagavan reveals to us in Ramanacentre. It should be that, as Bhagavan says to Arunachala, Anbodun Namam Kel, Anbardam Anbarukku Anbana Idarul Arunachala. That we are given this opportunity to be of some least help to those who are loving you, those who have bhakti for you, O Ramana. That is more than enough. That gives me so much happiness that you have allowed me to serve your Anbargal. That should be the attitude, and that is the attitude that Ramanath Brahmachari takes. He doesn't think of anything in terms of power. His intention is only to serve those tapasvins who are all struggling, toiling day in and day out, trying to find the truth in Palakottu. And the person mentioning this greatness of Ramanath Brahmachari writes, we were all thinking we are great tapasvins, so we will not care for anything, the cleanliness, the light or anything, or the vegetables, whatever. We will just assume we are the greatest tapasvins and go and sit for dhyana. That's all we will do. Ramanath Brahmachari would take care of everything for us, from the lamps, from the cleaning, from what we needed. He would wear some old chappals which had many layers in it, stitched on and just with nails running through them. And in his dhoti he will bring whatever. The dhoti itself will be taken as bag, and in that he will, in his short stature, bring all the things required from the town and service. And to that man, Bhagavan gives the title, he is the Sarvadhikari of Palakottu. And when Ramanath Brahmachari and others, they say, how can you call him like that? Then Bhagavan says, is it not the great privilege of the devotees to have such a loving Sarvadhikari? He is entitled to that title, says Bhagavan himself. Now that's a different story altogether. But what the sadhaka should do is not aspire for a great show of powers or abilities, but to be of the serving nature, that the smallest service opportunity available should be taken with great care and respect for Bhagavan. And that attitude is what helps, is the day-to-day indication of this verse. But let us go into the details as to what are the siddhis, what is that one great power. But this is the practical day-to-day living implication of this verse, that our aim as sadhakas, even if we are allowed to serve the devotees of Bhagavan, it should be with great reverence to Bhagavan for having given us that opportunity, rather than display any powers. Now coming to the verse, what is this one Shakti that is behind? That has been delineated to us in verses 6, 7 and 8 as the Atma Tattva Prakarana, in that the power has been referred to as the Sakshi, the witness of the mind, or the witness of the Chidakasha in verse number 7, or the Spurana in Bhagavan's teachings, the verse number 8 of Hridaya Kuhara Madhye. Now, that is the one power. Why do we call it a power beyond the karmas, beyond the area of work, the power great or small? However great a power may be, this Shakti is beyond it. Now, that comes through that this Shakti of God is not explainable through karmas, comes through in a talk where a small girl from Chennai, I think, visits Bhagavan, and she asks Bhagavan, who is it that makes us work? And Bhagavan says, God makes us work. And who is it that gives us results? I am only paraphrasing, can go through that talk. Bhagavan tells that girl that it is God who gives us the results. Then the girl asks a very simple question, but revealing that one can never come to the power of Bhagavan, the power of the Ishvara, through explanations of karma route. You will go round and round. And she asks a simple question. She says, it is Bhagavan who makes us do the work. Then he labels some work as bad and gives us bad results. What are we to do? She says. Now, Bhagavan simply laughs at that, and it is said that he is watching her and he helps her read through some other work where obviously certain other pointers must have been there. But the whole point is the whole area of power, however great and small, is always built with the forces of like and dislike, attachment and aversion, which are absent in the Ishvara Tattva. The Ishvara Tattva, which is referred to, the Atma Tattva referred to in the verses 6, 7, 8 as the manifested self, is always unaffected by the play of powers. By the play of however great that power may be, it is nothing, because this is of a wholly different plane. The Sakshi Bhava, the Chidakasha, witnessing self, or the Spurana, which consumes the Sakshi as well as the Chidakasha witnessing self and shines all by itself. In all the three explanations given by the great ones, the manifested power of the self, the Atma Shakti, is clearly beyond the play of individual or societal powers. Now, this becomes clear in another example given by Bhagavan in the talks. Very relevant and current topic is asked in those days itself, in 1930s, of Bhagavan. I think it is Evans Wentz in talk number 17, where he asks, is it right for society to take the life of a murderer, to take the life of a criminal? Is it not wrong to take the life of someone? And some Western countries are really, in those days itself, he's saying, some Western countries are realizing this and taking the taking of life or capital punishment out of the statute books. He refers to Bhagavan. And what Bhagavan says is so all-encompassing, and it clarifies the whole issue. So Bhagavan says, it is the one power that made the criminal commit the crime, which uses the society as an instrument and delivers the punishment. So you go and hold the one power, he says, instead of going into the area of liking and disliking and judging whether the society was right or wrong in giving. Go to the underlying power. If you discuss in the relative area, you will get caught up in the maze of karmas. the maze of results and causes. Instead, always go to the underlying power, the same Shakti which made the criminal go through that crime and learn about himself. He is using the society as an instrument. Now, this is a perspective we need to get, that whether it is an individual or gathering of individuals or the whole of the world, the whole of the cosmos, it is all mere instrument of that one power. That is the perspective we need to have. When that makes it clear that if we ask for Siddhi, then we are merely adding to our doership, adding to our separation, and nothing more. Anyway, it would have made us do that. Whatever we had to do, that one power, the Bhagavan refers to it as the Sannidhi of the Atma Shakti is referred to like the sun and the earth. Like in the presence of the sun, all the activities on earth go on. But is the sun affected by any of it? Ask Bhagavan. The answer is absolutely no. How many our kings may have been overthrown, whatever might have happened here, it does not affect the sun at all. Same is the case with Atma Shakti. Even more, whatever may happen in the entire cosmos, the Sannidhi of the Atma Shakti is causing all that, but the Atma Shakti itself remains unaffected by this whole play of the universe, says Bhagavan. Now, having given to understand that, that this is the situation, if somebody asks for a little bit more power, to do a little bit more here or there, it is only causing the doership to increase and nothing more than that. What is coming through in this verse so far is that the highest siddhi that one can have, over which we will directly jump now, highest siddhi one can have is to learn through dhyana, through tapas, that all of us, the individuals, are not separate, are not apart. We are all connected and controlled by that one power. To realize that and to be subservient or surrendered to that, to be serving that power is far better than trying to say, oh God, let me get a seat by your right hand side or left hand side and be a co-governor with you. Hardly the way one should work, because the truth is that all individuals, great and small, all creations are connected together. Manigalil saradana uyirdurum nana madandurum muruvana maruvinai nidan, says Bhagavan. That one power is that one power which connects every being like a thread. Now, why should the bead feel I should be a bigger bead than the previous one? So it comes down to day-to-day living again, that it is enough if we can hasige ideshtu kal chachu. They say the Gade can never go wrong. That once one understands that we are being run by that one power, living within our means, not trying to show off, becomes very easy and natural and within the play of the truth. So this is not merely about the Ashtamaha-siddhi. The Ashtamaha-siddhis, of course, we can learn a little bit about them. There is a website on this separately. The classifications are differently made. There is one classification where 24 siddhis are there. All these are powers which come more than the normal sensory, the mental or intellectual powers, which come due to the tapas or penance, which brings in the sattva guna, and that sattva guna is added on with this prayer for higher power, and the higher power comes. Some of the powers that we may get there, they say, is trying to get into another person's body. Now that can be reduced to a day-to-day living by saying that we see somebody go in a bigger car and put ourselves into their body and go and make this unnecessary expense. So it can be brought down to day-to-day living, and we can see that getting into another person's body we do all the time. That avun togondidane, avun madidane, nan madabarde. So if you look at the other Ashtamaha of reading other people's thoughts, then better ability to, let us say, the attract others, then better ability to hear, see that which is farther, all the sensory perceptions increased. Now probably these were mentioned when TV and radio were not there. But now live TV is there. We can see what is happening thousands of kilometers away. It doesn't make us any better. It makes us more worried, because we try to keep in touch with somebody far away. Every 5 minutes once we try to call and see if they are all right. So it increases our worries, which is what Bhagavan says in the talks, that with these little powers we are having so many worries. With the ability to do more, our worries and the karmas are only going to increase, and the troubles are going to increase and not decrease, says Bhagavan in the talks. Coming to talk number 20 about this siddhis itself, Bhagavan says, why do we seek to have these siddhis? I'll read from that talk. It is only to gain the approval of others, and moreover, what are these powers for? The would-be occultist Siddha desires to display the siddhis so that others may appreciate him. He seeks appreciation, and if it is not forthcoming, he will not be happy. Why do we seek the bigger car? Why do we see the costly coat which we cannot afford? We seek the same way we seek the siddhis so that we will get appreciated. He seeks appreciation, and if it is not forthcoming, he will not be happy. There must be others to appreciate him. He may even find another possessor of higher powers. So you go and get that car, you go and become the richest person on earth. Then you find somebody is better than you, somebody has crossed you. Then Bhagavan says, he may find even another possessor of higher powers. That will cause jealousy and breed unhappiness, because you have hitched so much on that measurement, that power, that if somebody is greater than you, then there is this feeling of jealousy and unhappiness. The higher occultist Siddha may meet still a higher Siddha, and so on. So there is no limit to the increase in individual powers, and all are madmen, says Bhagavan. All these Siddhas who seek individual powers are madmen, because they have lost the basic truth that we are all together in this, that we are all connected, we are not separate. And the higher occultist Siddha may meet a still higher Siddha, and so on, until there will come one who will blow up everything in a trice. Such a highest adept Siddha is the Jnani, he is God or the self. Such is the highest Siddha, highest adept, and he is God or the self. Now, Bhagavan refers to the Jnani as somebody who can blow everything as in a trice. Because once you get to the Sakshi Bhava, the whole play of karma and achievements is now transcended. So the Jnani, when someone, whether a king from Travancore would come, or whether the poorest farmer nearby would come, to Bhagavan, both of them would be the same. There won't be any difference between the rich king and the poor farmer, because for him, the transcending of that, the whole area of the siddhis, the achievements that we have in this world is transcended. So he is simply just sitting in front of Bhagavan. The rich man who has come with all his pride will lose it in a trice. There happens one occasion where two great officials of a nearby, must be a area, a district collector and an equally high-ranking official, both of them come. And they come to meet Bhagavan, and one person starts going on telling what all he has done in sadhana. Now, one after another, for so many minutes, he is keeping on talking without end. In between, he is looking at Bhagavan for approval. but Bhagavan is keeping mauna. He is not telling anything. Then the next person starts, and that goes on for another so many minutes. Everybody in the hall is waiting patiently, and he is also trying to elicit something from Bhagavan, and Bhagavan just keeps quiet. And at the end of that, the whole narrative of what all tapas they have done, then they ask Bhagavan, we have narrated so much and told you what all we have done, what all tapas we have done, but you have not talked to us at all. You have not uttered a single word. Then Bhagavan says, but I have been talking all along in my own language, but somehow you could not hear it. Then the collector realizes what Bhagavan is saying and falls at his feet is the narrative that the Jnana Siddha can just, all our learning, all our siddhis will be dropped in a trice in front of him. Because that Sannidhi itself, the Sannidhi of the Jnani itself, is a Sannidhi where all these cannot work because the ego has to drop. There is another Siddha who comes to Bhagavan who is able to convert base metal into gold. And he is so proud of his Siddhi that he is showing to others. And in fact, he comes and challenges Bhagavan. You are saying you are a Jnani. Can you do this? He must have been eligible for some kind of instruction, is what I feel, because Bhagavan responds to him. Usually, I don't feel Bhagavan would have responded to such a person if that person were me. If I want to show off what I have achieved, Bhagavan may not have responded to me, but here he must have been eligible in some way. And Bhagavan says, okay, what is it that you can do? What is the siddhi you can do? He says, see Bhagavan, I can change this base metal coin into gold. Okay, do it and show, he says. And he takes a coin from somebody, does a mantram, chadana, or whatever he does, and that changes and he shows. And Bhagavan says, oh, this mantra or this siddhi you should be able to do it again and again, is it not? He says, yes, what is there? It is in my command, the siddhi is in my command, I can do how many times I want. Then Bhagavan says, do it one more time. But the next time, his ego itself perhaps is not able to rise and hold the mantram. In Bhagavan Sannidhi, the ego has been made powerless, has been made so weak in that Sannidhi, has been made to lose all its likes and dislikes, perhaps, that he is not able to raise and hold the mantra. And the coin remains brass and he surrenders. That is the flimsy nature of Siddhi, that it cannot even stand for a few minutes in the right Sannidhi, in the truth of the Ishvara Sannidhi. None of the siddhis can remain. Now we come to the main point, that how Bhagavan himself has displayed many siddhis, or many siddhis have happened in his presence. And Bhagavan gives us a clue in one of the siddhis that happens, that in Skandashramam, when one of the cooks, I think it is Sampurnammal, but I'm not very sure, she is preparing the food. There are about 8 to 10 people in the Skandashramam those days, and she has prepared food for all of them. Then at exactly a few minutes before lunch hour, a group of 12 people or so come from the town and come and sit down and in front of Bhagavan, and she is completely taken over by great anxiety. She is worried that she knows for sure Bhagavan will call whoever is there at lunch hour, he will call for lunch. Now she is totally perplexed what she is going to do, because she is going to run out of food. She goes near Bhagavan and tries to catch his attention and tell Bhagavan, the food is not there, but he is unmoved. He is not even listening. And as she feared, exactly at the time, he calls all of them. And she starts serving, and food starts overflowing. And obviously, It's coming from somewhere as Akshaya Patram, and all of them are served to their heart's content. There are other occasions where Bhagavan has merely looked at the group. When in another occasion in the ashram, where everybody is seated and they say food may not be enough. After the Bhagavan's looking at the whole group, whatever was available is enough. What trupti he gave, we can't tell. But in this particular episode, the food overflows and Sampurnammal or the cook is able to serve all of them. And when they leave, she says, Bhagavan, you know what happened? That the food increased in quantity just like that. And Bhagavan asks, who is it that cooked today? Sampurnammal, in her natural way, like any of us, Bhagavan, it's I who cooked. Then the miracle is yours, he says. That means the Sannidhi is the Sannidhi, but the Sankalpa of Sampurnammal, that worried devotee, that plea is so sincere that in that Sannidhi it fructifies, and Bhagavan doesn't take any kind of doership there, and he reveals to us what is the Mahima of the Sannidhi, but we can't go into that area of how Bhagavan does that, because it is clearly beyond the gamut of our mind. But we can understand that in our sadhana, if we seek siddhis, if we seek powers, because there will be times when we will know, oh, this is what she is thinking, this is what he is thinking. I am able to clearly see. In our thought-free state, we will know this is not my thought, this is his thought. Then we will try to use that. That brings in the false division. The false ego is solidified because this division as he and I is itself false. So his thought and my thought is false. To read another's thought is breakdown of sadhana. So whatever thought comes, whosoever thought it may be, it is my thought. There is nobody other than me as far as thought is concerned. So whenever a thought comes, I should not see whose thought it is there. I should just ask, for whom is this thought? No reading of mind, no trying to decide what is the motive behind that other person. Only asking, for whom is this thought, and take that I to the source, to the real siddhi. What is this real siddhi? The real siddhi is to abide in the self, which Bhagavan says again and again, abidance in the self. There was a story referred to by Sudhaji a few days back about the realization. One of our devotees, Sudhaji, she had referred to from Nisargadatta Maharaj, that I want you to clarify this, she asked. And in that story, the siddhi part of the siddha is included. She had, in that story, the content was, the Nisargadatta Maharaj says, the realized man's journey is like this, somewhat like this, that man finds himself in a forest full of wild tigers. In that, he suddenly finds a cage into which he can go and safely remain and let the tigers roam around, whatever they want, let them do. He is safely protected in the cage. Then comes a siddhi ability that he has now caged all the tigers and he is roaming free wherever he wants. And finally, the Jnana Siddhi, Nisargadatta Maharaj says in that story, the Siddha is able to ride the tigers, he says. The cage is gone, not necessary, and is able to ride the tigers. So in its explanation, I had tried to share that initially we are afraid of the greatness of the world and the troubles that it can bring us. Those are the tigers, and with our likes and dislikes juxtaposed against the will of the whole, we are in great trouble, like tigers roaming, and we are exposed. Then we find Bhagavan, oh Ramana, save me, and that is the cage into which we can go and safely be protected. Bhagavan, 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 and he takes care, absolutely. Then comes the stage where Bhagavan tells, do Atma Vicharam, come to the Sakshi Bhava. In the Sakshi Bhava, all the tigers of karma are caged. All the tigers of like and dislikes are put into the cage. And the Sakshi Bhava is free of that. Then the story tells the Jnani, the Siddha, is now able to ride on the likes and dislikes to share his experience, his liberation with the others, that he is no more afraid of the tigers, where required to eliminate the people who are afraid of the tigers. He uses them by riding those tigers as and when required without fear, is the story. But in Bhagavan, that part of the Siddhi is not there. The Siddha is someone who has completely eliminated this whole field. And in the Sakshi Bhava, where the world is seen, you may construct that part of the story. That by that Sakshi Bhava, he is able to be free and he sees the whole field as caged tigers. But Bhagavan doesn't stop there. He doesn't stop with verse number 6. He comes to verse number 7, where with Sakshi Bhava, what happens? The thoughts and objects, they drop away. The thoughts remain no more. The sensory objects remain no more. The senses remain no more. There is only Chidakasha. There is only witnessing of Chidakasha in verse number Oli Unakyadu. In that verse number 7, Adi Shankara takes us to Chidakasha, which is me. And Bhagavan rolls up the Chidakasha and consumes it as the Spurana, as the I. Who is witnessing the blank? Who is witnessing the Chidakasha? The I has consumed the world, has consumed the Jiva, and consumed everything, and remains shining alone as I. That is the real Siddhi, says Bhagavan. All other Siddhis are Soppanamar Siddhigale, Nidhirai vittorndal avai meiyo. Unmai nenayil nindru poimai thirndar thiyanguvaro therndiruni. The real Siddhi for all of us is only to do Atma Vicharam and abide in this Purana, which also quietens down into Shivam, he says. This Purana, which is the manifested form, quietens down. When you don't ask anything of this Purana and have Sayujya with this Purana, then that Purana also quietens and the self alone is. That is the real Siddhi, not the Ashtamaha Siddhi, says Bhagavan. Let us sit in Atma Vicharam to go towards the real Siddhi of Aham Spurana. Revathi, you'll set the time for us. Okay. 10 minutes is enough. If there are any clarifications, we'll take up after. Bhagavate Shri Ramana. Namo Ramana. The understanding is that, see, we are trying to our motto, the motto of RMCL is self-inquiry for all. In that, we are trying to connect how the self-inquiry is relevant to our children and into day-to-day living. So in that inquiry, we find a lot of interesting connection where the day-to-day science and education comes and meets and makes itself eligible for self-inquiry of Bhagavan. So in that sense, we find how that we are all run by one power. There is an interesting series of experiments by Benjamin Libet in 1983, where he finds that the jiva, the conscious entity, is actually pushed by some subconscious power. How he finds that out is that the conscious mind, when it takes a decision, 500 milliseconds before that, there is brain activity. That is, the brain is pushed from within, making itself ready, and then it charges the conscious mind, and the jiva comes to know this is the decision I have to make. That means his finding was, we in our average, the jiva nature, which is having a level of existence which has not touched beyond the levels of subconscious, all of us, if we are in the jiva bhava, we are pushed by the subconscious. We don't have a free will. That one power is running everything, but we have free want, he says. That means the one power has given us the one right to surrender, to say that, oh Bhagavan, just let me not act on this impulse. That, he says, is there. But as in the Vedanta, we find the various layers of the Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, and Anandamaya Kosha. What happens is, there appears to be free will. There appears to be free will, and Bhagavan says we have to act according to that. We have to act according to the rules of the free will. That we cannot behave as we want. So far as we have the identity with the body, the free will is there. It has to follow the rules and regulations. It has to set up for itself. How this happens is very interesting. How Libet is also correct, but those who talk about free will, they are also correct. We get a feel from the Vedanta that, see, the Annamaya Kosha is at a level of consciousness, Pranamaya Kosha is subtler than that. Compared to Annamaya Kosha, the Pranamaya Kosha seems to have free will, in the sense that suppose certain things are happening and we are going in a car and the dust is coming in, we can hold the breath till the internal air circulation is started. So that means free from the circumstances, we can act with the breath appropriately. This is what the finding from the modern philosopher called Chomsky is there. What indicates free will, he says, now I am addressing a group. I don't talk in a compelled way. I don't talk in Tamil, or I don't talk in Kannada, or in a language that's not the language of this particular group. I am talking according to the necessity of the circumstances. That means the language I use is appropriate to the circumstances. Now, therefore, he concludes free will is there. That is enough. Benjamin Libet can be put aside. We have to act as though free will is there. Now, where this contraposition comes is because Vijnanamaya Kosha, from where the language starts, is far more subtler than the Annamaya Kosha, where this reference point is there, as to which group I am addressing and all that. Obviously, the Shakti there is of a different, subtler nature, and the Prarabdha in that Kosha appears to be a free will in this Kosha. the prarabdha, there also, to me, in the subtle nature, Ishvara is underlying that substrate. The Vijnanamaya Kosha of all beings is now connected by this Purana of a particular nature. The Annamaya Kosha is connected by Spurana of particular nature. The Pranamaya Kosha connected by Ishvara Shakti in a particular nature. All the koshas, if they consider them to be separate levels, they are all under the one power, but underlying that particular state. But since we are beings who have been endowed with a subtler consciousness, since we live in a prarabdha that is there in that loka also, when we interact in this Annamaya Kosha loka, it appears as though we have more free will than other animals. But really speaking, all the koshas are transcended by the Ishvara Shakti. Therefore, irrespective of whether it is an intellectual thought, or it is a thought of the mind, or is a breath regulation, or something in the Annamaya Kosha, it is all under that one power. It cannot be otherwise. But relatively, as Bhagavan says, so far as we have a body, we have to take that, we have free will, and we have to regulate it. And the best way to regulate it is follow the rules given by Bhagavan, the Hita Mita Ahara, then not interfering with others' affairs, practicing self-inquiry, practicing surrender on the outside to that one power. These will take us to the truth that one power alone is running everything. Of course, science has also come to the extent that we are all connected. That there are talks by Tomchi where he finds that everything from creation to today is connected, and we as human beings, we are all connected in the subconscious. So the understanding that there is one connecting power, I am able to sit here and speak even in scientific terms because a small bacteria breathed in carbon dioxide and breathed out oxygen for 1.5 billion years, he says. So that ozone layer could be formed, higher mammals could come. Even coming through science finds that one power, one intelligence has been maintaining all this, and we are all connected to that beginning point. And obviously, what is it that connects? It is that which is beyond this whole area of karma. This whole area of creation is in the area of attraction and repulsion. The Atma Shakti is beyond that. Therefore, this whole area of attraction and repulsion is transcended by these two practices of surrender to Bhagavan and Atma Vicharam, which is real Siddhi, which takes us towards real Siddhi. Otherwise, we are mere marionettes, mere puppets, participating and contributing our karmic role in the play of karma. Nothing more, nothing less. If we have to bring some energy that is different from being a karmic player, the only way to do that is to come to the Atma, which is a Sakshi, which is of totally free energy. If we want to bring a new energy into a relationship other than karmic bondage, as a husband, as a wife, as a son, as a daughter, as a mother, the only way we bring anything new other than karmic bondage is to bring the surrender, is to bring the Atma Jnana. That is more or less where science also comes towards Bhagavan's teachings, and probably with Bhagavan's grace, there may be a time when Atma Vichara is taken to and taught in schools and classes and various institutions also. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. Namo Ramanaka. I think I have ended up overshooting.
Namo Ramanasramam. Very good. It's a very important area and very beautifully covered by Nandkumarji for all of us. And starting with, of course, the Sarva Shakti, and when towards in the later half, when he just spoke, he talked about the relative Shakti, which was very interesting because it appears as if the intellect is free compared to the body. That is a very interesting aspect which came out in the later part, and that is traditionally given to us in the Keno Upanishad through a story of the Sarva Shakti, where the great gods They all are triumphant over some asuras and they feel pride. And so the Sarva Shakti decides to, because there is of their goodness, decides to reveal its presence and appears before in the Indra Loka as a Yaksha. And they do not know who this Yaksha is. Indra first sends Agni, and Agni is very boastful. So this is what? That the highest intellect. So the great powers which appear to be very free, Agni, the god of fire who can burn anything. And the Yaksha says, who are you? When he is asked, who are you? Yaksha says, who are you? See the famous question of Bhagavan. And he says, no, I am Agni. And he says, okay, what can you do? I can burn anything. And Yaksha puts a blade of grass and says, all right, blade, not anything is not required, just burn this blade of grass. And Agni is unable to burn that blade of grass. Similarly, Vayu is unable to blow away that blade of grass. Then Indra comes and he does not find the Yaksha. That is, Indra, he is the supreme one of the gods. He is not able to see the Yaksha. So, the greatest power cannot see the Atma Shakti. Except by surrender or through the grace which has been blessed on self-inquiry, we are able to impute the Atma Shakti. Otherwise, what can this power do? It cannot do anything. When it cannot know the Atma Shakti, which Bhagavan says is the only Siddhi, of what use is any other Siddhi? And we find Bhagavan himself giving one story, which is in Stories from Bhagavan, it is entitled The Siddha and the Jnani. So the one who has developed the power, Gorakhnath is said to have developed power over the body, made it so powerful that nothing can cut it. The Bhagavad Gita talks of the self as that which cannot be burnt, that which cannot be wetted, that which cannot be cut, etc. This Siddha, when Prabhulinga comes there, Prabhudeva, he comes, Allama Prabhu, and he tells, the Siddha tells him, you cut my body. Because Allama Prabhu says, what should I be talking to one who takes the body to be God? And he says, no, cut this body. He gives him a sword. And Allama Prabhu is not able to cut the body of that Siddha. Then Allama Prabhu says, you cut my body. Gorakhnath says, no, I don't want to do that. But when he insists, then when Gorakhnath takes the sword and begins to cut Allama Prabhu, he finds that the sword passes through him. It just passes through him. Wherever he may cut, it just passes through him. Because that there is nobody, there is no entity there, says Bhagavan, to display anything, to display any siddhi. It is just at one with the Supreme. This is one of the examples which Bhagavan gives. And there is another the famous story of the Daruka forest, which is linked with the very composition of Upadesha Saram, which puts at naught any seeking of any siddhi, which the great rishis of the forest of Darukavana could do anything. They felt they could achieve anything, but they were unable to touch the Shiva Shakti, and thereafter they surrendered to it, and they could get the Upadesha from Lord Shiva upon surrendering, saying that, beginning with that Karturajnaya prapyate phalam. So far as we are concerned, as Nandakumarji also pointed out to us, we may imagine that we are not seeking any siddhis, but the rise of every thought is a seeking of siddhi. It is a seeking of fulfillment of some action through that thought. Or at least, to say the least, it comes with a feeling, this is my thought. Bhagavan wants us to acknowledge that. He wants us to acknowledge the fact that we think it is our siddhi to have these thoughts. The Libet experiment is showing us that we may not be even actually controlling our own thoughts. However, we think at the conscious level that it is our thought. So Bhagavan says, first you inquire, first you accept it, okay, it is your siddhi. Say, it is my thought, it is my siddhi. But then when you put yourself the question, who is this I? Who is this I if this is my thought? If I do not know who the I is, how can I lay claim to anything? And if the I itself is non existent, how can I lay claim to anything? That is what Bhagavan reveals to us through the process of self inquiry. Therefore, the subtlety of the mind claiming something is its danger, and it is constantly claiming something or the other. And therefore, Bhagavan is pointing out in a gentle sense, in a laughing sense, and also in a strong way, in a way to say that we are all actually crippled. We cannot even move of our own accord. When he gives the example of a lame man, he is saying that you cannot even move but for the Atma Shakti. You are totally, actually crippled. So, where is the question of your achieving anything whatsoever? Where is the question of achievement? Where is the question of siddhi? The only thing to do is to surrender and to practice inquiry, because we have the sense of free will to practice it, but with a sense of surrender and remembrance of Bhagavan's grace, that alone is all. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Raman.